Hey guys, it's Toxic AJ here. Today, I'll be reading part 2 of the story we did not finish yesterday. Clockwork, your time is up. There are no more tears to shed. All she did was smile. The blood from the piercings made a low dripping noise from the sink and onto the counter. When she was finished, she stood back and admired her handiwork. She stroked the horrendous stitches on the side of her mouth that spread into a wild smile. She felt the warm, wet blood on her fingers and licked it gently, consuming the metallic taste of liquid in pure ecstasy. She stopped when she saw her mother's face reflection in the mirror behind her mother's wide eyes and pale face. She suddenly felt the pain and cried, "Mom?" She had not felt so confused. What just happened to her? Her mother had scheduled some therapy for her. Natalie had gotten rid of the stitches and figured how much pain it would bring, so she went to see the therapist. She made sure her hood was up, not to let anyone see. She sat down in the comfortable leather seat and stared at the blonde-haired woman across from her in silence. "Your name is Natalie, isn't it?" Natalie just nodded. "I'm Deborah, and I'm here to help. Now, tell me, what have been some of your problems?" Natalie stared. Time. Time has been my problem." Deborah had a confused look. "What about time?" Natalie's hand roughly gripped the leather of the seat. "Everything. It makes you live through it. Slowly, progressing through life, being controlled by society, only to be tortured. It's a vicious cycle. Time does not end. It does not slow down. It doesn't speed up. It's violent, and you live through the torture over and over and over again, unable to feel, unable to fast forward from it." Natalie had really no idea what she said. She wasn't feeling herself anymore. Could this be because of all the things she kept contained? No, that was impossible. But for some strange reason, she liked it. The therapist leaned closer. "Sweetheart, I want you to tell me what happened to you." Natalie still stared. It was a long pause. She smirked slightly, and her piercings from the stitches slightly opened again. "Why didn't you tell me, Blondie? You're the expert here." Deborah seemed to have an annoyed look. "I can't help you until you tell me what's wrong, Natalie." Her fingers started to tear into the leather seats. "Natalie isn't here anymore." With that, Deborah's eyes widened. She got up. "I'll be right back. Please sit here." She walked out, leaving her alone. Natalie did not move. She sat perfectly still. A natural while of waiting and impatience. Her parents finally walked in. She stood happy to go, but she noticed her parents' expressions. Even her father had a strange, saddened look on his face. Her confusion grew, but she said no words and followed them to the car. On the way where she thought that she was going home, so she was starting to drift off. Strangely, she heard a dark voice speaking in a dream. It almost sounded like herself echoing into eternal darkness. "Your time is up." She shot awake. Beads of sweat were rolling down her face. She wasn't home. She wasn't in the car. She was in a bed. A white bed in a white room. She looked to her side, seeing that she was hooked to a heart monitor. She went to get up, but suddenly realized she was bounded down. She panicked. She tried to struggle up, but paused. Here, a door to her left open. A man in a white shirt looked at her, his hands behind his back. "You must be very confused right now. I can imagine. But I'm letting you know, we're only here to help. Your parents agreed to sign a contract to give you some mental drugs to hopefully help your state of mind." She opened her mouth to protest, but was quickly silenced. "You'll be back to normal in no time. Just try to relax." He walked over. She tried to move away, but she couldn't, due to the bonds around her wrists and legs. He carefully took a mask and put it over her mouth and nose. She tried to shake it off, but felt herself starting to slip under the drugs, and her eyes slowly shut. Suddenly, she woke up. She couldn't comprehend what the hell she was seeing. She was being given multiple injections, even some things being rubbed on her skin. She felt woozy, but very aware of her surroundings. Her rate was starting to speed up on the monitor. The doctors took notice of this. They looked at her, seeing her opened eyes. One of the doctors was yelling at another. She couldn't understand what they were talking about, though. But she suddenly felt a rush of adrenaline slowly started to slip through her bonds, shaking violently. One of the doctors were going to hold her down, but was suddenly hesitant of doing so. All three of the doctors backed away. She stayed on the edge of the bed now and ripped the mask and tube from her arm. She got up, started to stumble. Her breathing hitched. Her vision was blurry. She couldn't make herself out. And suddenly she felt severe pain in her chest. She gripped her chest, where her heart should be, and fell to her knees and coughed up blood, then fell to the floor, completely blacking out. She woke up slowly. She was back in bed, and the doctors were sitting beside her. Something went horribly wrong. She didn't know why, but she felt hatred toward the doctor. He took notice of it and looked away. You weren't supposed to wake up while we were giving you the doses. We aren't sure how it affected you, but we have a feeling that we're going to find out. He paused for a second before taking out a small mirror, not looking at her. It happened to have an effect on her appearance as well. She looked at herself in the mirror. Her eyes widened. They were completely green. She noticed that she still had the stitch in her mouth, and for some reason she couldn't help but feel happy. Her heart rate started to increase again. She gave out a low chuckle. The doctor looked in shock, seeing that she was already standing over him. Doctor? She said, chuckling. He trembled slightly, pressing a button from under the monitor. Yes? Your time is up. A loud scream was heard from the halls of the hospital. 2 security guards rushed into the room, kicking open the door. Blood was the first thing that they seen. Blood on the walls, blood on the bed, blood on the floor, and even on the ceiling. Natalie had taken the doctor and strapped him onto the bed. His spine was completely snapped as the bed was bent almost into a sandwich. Blood poured from his eyes, nose, mouth, and ears. And there, in the corner, was the murderer, happily drawing gruesome pictures on the walls in blood, followed by the phrase, "Your time is up." She slowly turned to look at them. A wide-eyed, crazy grin spread across her face. "Hello, friends. Would you like to play?" The police quickly pulled out the weapons when she charged at one of them, quickly able to dodge the strike. She grabbed the pocket knife and slashed it right through the waistline. Blood and organs floated out, and the police collapsed to the ground. The other shook his head with fear, dropping his weapon. She slowly walked up to him and placed the tip of the knife on his chest. "Your time is up." She slowly slid the knife down all the way to his guts. His organs spilled out onto the floor and he collapsed. Natalie's mother was sleeping silently next to her husband. She woke to the sound of someone knocking on her door. Oh, jeez. She got up and walked out of the bedroom to go open the door. It was pouring outside. She walked up to the door and paused when she was about to grab the knob. There was a faint sound of laughter. The rain and thunder seemed to be quieter. She pressed her ears against the door. "Hello, Mother." Natalie burst through the door, 2 knives in her hand. Her mother stumbled back, hitting her head against the coat rack. One of the knobs broke in her skull, and it bled violently from the back of her head onto the floor. She fell to the ground, paralyzed, but still conscious. Natalie towered over her and slowly knelt down to meet the level of her eyes, and showed her 2 knives covered in thick, red blood. "I was suffering, Mother." She ran the tip of the knife across her cheek, cutting it slightly. Natalie tilted her head. "You were weak. You did nothing." All her mother could do was shake and gasp constantly, like a fish on a line. Natalie grabbed her mother and gently set her down. She proceeded to stand on top of her, started to make a V cut into her chest. Her mother only gasped and shook. Natalie knew that she didn't have much time left. She proceeded to forcibly open her mother's chest cavity with a loud crack. Natalie reaches inside to grab her mother's heart as it beats slowly in her hand. Well, guys, that's it for this video. I guess I'll see you guys later. Bye.